Thank you, as you were. Anti-Corruption Unit 3, interview of Edward Hastings in the presence of his solicitor by Detective Chief Superintendent Carmichael, Detective Inspector Brandis and Police Sergeant Tranter at 17:30 on the 14th of March 2019. For the DIR, can you please identify yourself?
Superintendent Hastings.
You remain under caution. Mr. Hastings, what is your current permanent residence?
My rank is superintendent and you will address me as such.
I'm very happy to address you, Superintendent. And in respect of your responses, ma'am, will suffice.
I do not have a permanent residence, Ma'am.
Why is that, Superintendent?
Well, because my wife and I sold the house, I am temporarily holed up in a hotel whilst seeking a more permanent accommodation.
And this would be the Edge Park Hotel room?
Yes, room 336.
Document 4 in your folders. Document 4 relates to a search of room 336 at the Edge Park Hotel today on the 14th of March. PS Tranter will show you image 9 on screen. If you prefer, you can refer to your folder. Image 9 shows item reference MB1. Superintendent Hastings, do you recognise item MB1?
I do, Ma'am.
Image 10 on screen, please. Image 10 shows item reference MB2. Item reference MB2 is a collection of banknotes in the value of £50,000. Do you recognise item MB2, Superintendent Hastings?
I do, Ma'am.
Can you account for this substantial sum of cash?
I was in the process of returning this cash to retired Detective Chief Inspector Mark Moffat. Moffat forwarded the cash to me using false pretenses.
Dear Brandis.
Document 24 in your folders, a statement given to PS Tranter by Mark Moffat today, the 14th of March.
In his statement, Mr Moffat claims on only providing further documents relating to the Kettlebell project and nothing else.
Well, the man is a barefaced liar.
I can't bear shouting. You really ought to try and be more calm.
Yeah, well, I'll be more calm when I'm not listening to a pack of lies. Did you even manage to check the banknotes for fingerprints?
Funnily enough, I have run an investigation before. Moffat provided elimination prints. They weren't detected on the banknotes.
Oh, yeah, he'd be too smart for that. What about the envelope?
Prints were detected, but he doesn't deny handling the envelope.
Right, great.
Said cash. Why did you hold on to it?
As I said, I intended to return it.
Intended?
Yeah, well, I didn't open the package immediately, Mom, but the minute I spotted the cash, I called Moffat straight away.
How would you describe receiving 50 grand in a brown envelope when you're the head of an anti-corruption unit?
Suspicious.
Yeah, you see, we're agreeing. This is much better, isn't it? Suspicious.
Look, it was a complicated arrangement. It was an advance on funds that was due to me further down the line.
And the fact that it was in cash, what did that make you think?
Like I said, it didn't sit right.
Possibly someone was trying to hide the payment.
That's possible.
D.I. Brandis.
Document 17 in your folders. We've been given access to the accounts of Kettlebell Property Partners. We are unable to detect the sum of £50,000 credited to Edward Hastings.
Yeah, well, Moffat must have been keeping it off the books.
Well, bearing in mind that's your version of events, Superintendent, Moffat denies furnishing you with the cash.
Yeah, and I told you, the man's a liar.
My client is telling the truth. He strenuously denies Mr. Moffat's account.
Alternatively, hiding financial transactions on that scale, is that something you would normally do?
Absolutely not.
D.I. Brandis.
As part of our inquiry under police developed vetting procedures, we've been able to inspect Superintendent Hastings' financial records, documents 32 to 38 in your folders. Now, in 2014, an allegation was made by an officer under investigation by AC12, D.I. Lindsay Denton, who had fraudulently obtained access to Superintendent Hastings' financial records. At the time, Superintendent Hastings answered the allegations in writing, and the inquiry was closed, as Denton's evidence had been obtained unlawfully.
No, it was because there was no case to answer.
Our examination of your account since 2014 shows a pattern of increasing debts each time rectified by the sale of assets. Is that why you sold the family home, Superintendent?
I don't have to answer that question.
Well, you don't really need to answer any of these questions, but that's not going to help you, is it? So far, we have £50,000 hidden in your hotel room and a history of insolvency. I think it's in your best interest to account for this, otherwise my imagination might start running away with me. I mean, there's lots of reasons why a bloke might get into debt. Hardly dare mention them. Gambling, drink, drugs, sex.
Look, it was a bad investment. You trust somebody. All I was trying to do was to secure a comfortable retirement for myself and my wife.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's your duty to declare these losses. In your position as head of an anti-corruption unit, you are uniquely vulnerable to attempts of bribery and/or blackmail. Agreed?
Yes.
There, you see, we're agreeing again. This is how I like to work. These proceedings were initially triggered by allegations of professional misconduct. Let's move on to examine those.
I'd be most grateful if you would.
I'd like to look at your professional activities on the 12th of March. Have you had an opportunity to review your diary for that day?
I have, Ma'am.
Please feel free to refer to it.
Thank you.
Did you make a visit to Blackthorn Prison?
I did.
What was the purpose of that visit?
To gather and harvest information on the organised crime group that we were in the process of investigating.
We have a copy of a governor-authorised police visit to Blackthorn Prison on the 12th of March. Is that your name recorded at 1700 hours?
Yes, Ma'am, it is.
And who is recorded as the prisoner that you visited?
That would be Lee Banks.
Did you speak with Banks on the 12th?
I did, Ma'am.
What was the content of that conversation?
Well, I questioned Banks on the personnel of the OCG and other details that might be useful to our inquiry.
Was the conversation recorded?
No, Ma'am.
Was it witnessed?
No, Ma'am.
P.S. Tranter interviewed Lee Banks.
Lee Banks refused to cooperate in our inquiry and answered no comment to all the questions put to him.
There's no corroboration of your statement, Superintendent Hastings, is there?
No, look, Lee Banks is a hardened criminal. It's like getting blood out of a stone.
Well, he talked to you.
A little.
Why?
What do you mean?
Well, you just stated that Lee Banks isn't very forthcoming. What induced him to speak to you?
Well, I am the superintendent of the team that got him banged up and put behind bars, so if he helps me with my inquiry, I'll put a word into the court so they can take into account his cooperation when it comes to sentencing. There really isn't anything very clever about that.
But visiting a prisoner with no witness, no recording, that is less clever.
For the DIR, the interviewee is not responding.
What specifically did Banks reveal to you about the OCG that helped you with your inquiry?
Only that the shots were being called by John Clayton, a.k.a. John Corbett, and one Lisa McQueen.
Let's turn to Corbett and McQueen. Your unit has been attempting without much success, it has to be said, to apprehend Corbett. When was the last confirmed contact with Corbett?
Well, I'm sorry, Ma'am, I'd have to check.
We've checked. It was the 12th of March. A few hours before you visited Lee Banks in Blackthorn Prison. Now, turning to Lisa McQueen, she was interviewed by your leading investigators into Operation Pear Tree, D.I. Fleming and D.S. Arnott. We've been able to listen to the DIR of that interview.
Reading from the transcript, at McQueen, we got a tip-off there was a rat in the unit. He must have lost his bottle, he being Corbett. D.I. Fleming, where did the tip-off come from? McQueen. It came from out of Blackthorn.
Superintendent Hastings, did you reveal sensitive information to Lee Banks regarding D.S. John Corbett's undercover operation with the OCG?
No, I did not.
What would have been the consequences if you had?
Well, I think Corbett would have considered his position and sought refuge in the nearest police station.
Unless the OCG got to him first.
For the DIR, the interviewee is not responding.
I'd now like to present evidence from a forensic recovery at McDade and Company Breakers Yard.
Image 67 to 72 shows a body bag being forensically recovered from McDade and Company Breakers Yard.
The body bag contains body parts relating to a property developer who's been a missing person since 2012. Miss Jacqueline Laverty. Do you recognise Miss Laverty?
Yes, I do. She was the mistress of a police officer who was under investigation, TCI and Tony Gates.
Kate stated at the time that he was present when Miss Laverty was murdered by members of the OCG, so it's highly likely, wouldn't you agree, that this body bag was dumped by the OCG?
Yes.
Also present in the body bag were remains relating to an IC1 male aged approximately 40 years. A post-mortem has revealed that the victim died of exsanguination following a knife wound to the neck. Fingerprints and DNA match ident-1 elimination samples of a serving police officer. Detective Sergeant John Corbett. Superintendent Edward Hastings, I believe we've demonstrated you had motive to want Corbett dead.
No.
And the opportunity and means to disclose to Lee Banks that he was an undercover police officer.
No, never.
It is clear to me that the threshold test has been passed, and therefore it is my lawful right to arrest you on suspicion of conspiracy to murder John Corbett.
No.
You will be held in custody while we gather further evidence against you.
No, what is happening here? I'm being framed.
Interview terminated.
Look, I am not bent.
Thank you, Tina.
Ma'am.
I assume you've been informed.
Yes, ma'am.
You did the right thing, pointing the finger at your own gaffer. Takes guts, integrity. It tells me that I can count on the two of you.
Count on us for what, Mum?
Well, today was just for starters. I'm going to prove that Hastings is H.